So Tamsin Germain is the driver who leads the karts onto the track for our final second chance heat of the day here in Belgium, and you can see a lot lesser grid in terms of the juniors and seniors we've just previously had, but still the variety and of course the strength is on that grid, and it's Tamsin Germain who heads the field when the race does get underway. She'll start alongside Dennis Kroes on that front row. Row 2 then sees the likes of Tim Verelst, and alongside him is going to be Richard Faulkner, as we said, free entry for the whole championship this year. Then on to row 3 we've got Aldous Temarks and Andreas Laskaratas, and then on to row 4 it's going to be Ilja Aloskins and Richard Jutt, with meant to be there on the final row on his own Oriol Dalmu Caballero, the Spaniard, but again let's just see if he is there. We should have 9 karts out on track. In fact there's only 7 by the looks of it, so we have lost a further one after the warm-up session this morning, so it means we'll only lose 1 from this race. The other 6 will make it through, so if you're that unlucky one, you're not going to be very happy after the 11 laps of racing, are you? But we'll see who does make it through. Tamsin's pushing on in this first formation lap. Down towards the final corner she goes. In fact, there's one just waiting to join the track now, so that kart is about to head onto the circuit. So we are missing Oriol Dalmu Caballero after the dramas of yesterday. He had a torrid day. He failed to finish any of the races, I think. There was one he even failed to start, which is not good news for him. The one that's just joined at the back, I think, is possibly Richard Faulkner in kart 636. We'll try and pick that one up for you as it heads through turn 2. Again, can't quite see the number on the side of that, but I think it is Richard Faulkner. We'll wait and see once the race is underway, but definitely we are missing Oriol Dalmu Caballero. So it does now make it a little bit more trickier, as we will lose 2 rather than just the 1, and 6 will make it through to the race. Tamsin's got to be looking pretty positive here, because she starts at the head of the field, of course, and she'll be trying to hold the margin down towards the first corner and possibly pulling away from the rest of the field as well. So they're all there. The 8 we should have, just 1 to catch up now as they head down towards the last couple of corners. And yes, I think it is Richard Faulkner's kart that was late out onto the grid, so he's just about made it. He again holds back as they head through turn number 8 and then work their way through the left-hander at turn 9, where they come back into our sight in the commentary position, past the podium there, and then down towards the final corner. They'll now go. They should be in good formation, all 8 ready to race. Richard Jutt then gets moved up 1 position. There is Richard in 636. Alongside him now will be 643, which is Ilja Aloskins. And this race very shortly to get underway. Final bit of bump there from the 627 kart of Andreas Laskaratas, and the race will get underway for 11 laps now, being told to slow down by Thomas Leiner, and the race goes with Tamsin Germain making a very tardy start there. Didn't get the jump she needed, so everyone around her kind of piles on past, that being Dennis Kroes and the Andreas Laskaratas kart as well. And there's a spinner which is going to go for a full rotation, back on his way, and that's going to be Richard Jutt, unfortunately, who again was in strife yesterday and in strife down at turn 1 on this occasion. So here's one who now has to catch up with the rest of the pack, who head their way down towards the end of the back straight. Big move being made there from Andreas Laskaratas. Round the outside he goes, and he'll pick up the lead of the race. Wasn't quite there this morning in the warm-up session, but now he's mixing it with these Masters runners. Of course, the Masters class are those for the more mature age within DD2, and that's why they find themselves in a separate class. Still wants to go kart racing, and still very competitive at this level as well. So Andreas Laskaratas will come through to lead this lap, or will he? Because down the inside goes Dennis Kroes at the end of this first lap to get himself back ahead of the field, so he goes into the lead. Laskaratas second, Tamsin still there in third, but being pushed all the way from Ilja Aloskins, who's made up positions from row number 4. Big dive there from possibly Aldous Temarks, I think that was, trying to get past Richard Faulkner, which he's now done. I think these 7 at the minute will be very close for the whole entire race. As down the inside there goes Tamsin Germain. She gets herself up in towards the 2nd position, past Laskaratas as she now goes. Another move being made further back from Aldous Temarks, who makes contact with the back there of the kart of possibly Tim Verelst, I think that was. So Tim Verelst got a little bit of a helping hand in towards turn 5. He's now dropped to possibly 7th position, so lots of bumping and boring going on further down the field, but now the top 3 have pretty much broken away here. Dennis Kroes leads the way, 2nd for Tamsin Germain, 3rd place for Andreas Laskaratas, then the slight gap back to Ilja Oloskins in 4th. 5th place is going to be Tim Verelt. In fact, it wasn't him who was bumped on that turn 5. It was Richard Faulkner, in fact, who was hit from Aldous to Marks there. So he goes through just outside the top 6 places at the minute, where he needs to get himself into if he wants to be on the back of the pre-final grid. 8th place, by the way, still Richard Jutt, just off screen there as he works his way on towards the hairpin at turn number 4. There down the back straight though goes 3rd and 4th. That is the likes of Las Karatas and Oloskins. And there are our leaders once more, Dennis Crows and Tamsin Germain, who's looking pretty feisty here to get herself up into the lead of the race. She's doing some quick lap times. She's fairly quick through the first sector, fractionally quicker than the leader Dennis Crows, and Las Karatas is there. Best of anyone in sector 2 though. He's responded, has Dennis Crows in the lead of the race down towards the final corner. The second sector is the shortest within this lap. The third sector not too far different from the second. It's around about 17 seconds. They're very identical through sectors 2 and 3. Sector 1 is the longest for the DD2 competitors, 23 seconds it equates to, and sector 1 ends down the back straight between turns 4 and 5. There's the fight for 5th place between Tim Verelst and Aldous Timarks. In fact, I think that's just slightly up the road now. I think Oloskins is just in there as well. In fact, there's been a change because those two have swapped around. So, yeah, that's the fight for 4th as Tim Verelst goes through. Oloskins now just behind in that, again, white suit. And then behind them, still just inside the top 6, is Aldous Timarks. Richard Faulkner is trying to catch back up. It is a second drift for now. And then Richard Jutt still finds himself down in 8th place. This is our leader, still Dennis Crows, through the final corner, on towards the start-finish line he goes. Tamsin Germain still second. Does the gap come down that time through? It was 4 tenths, it's now out to 6 tenths of a second. So a slight difference between those two on that lap. Still in 3rd place is Las Karatas, and then Tim Verelst is starting to catch as well. So watch out for Tim over the next few laps. We're working our way now through on lap number 4. So not quite at halfway distance for now. This is the fight that heads its way down towards turn 5, and that is between the likes of our leaders, Dennis Crows and Tamsin Germain. Tamsin definitely picked up the pace on this lap now as they work their way in towards the hairpin at turn 7. Can she try for a move at turn 8? She'd probably be brave enough to go for one, but she might want to think about it at the final corner. That's the best place to get the job done. So down towards the right hander they now come. Does Tamsin dive for it? Yes, she does. Dennis Crows gives her enough room, but as normally happens, you then can get the cut back, and Dennis Crows for now stays ahead as he looks over his left shoulder just to check that Tamsin is still there, and whereabouts she'll try for another move. Not quite at turn 1. She gets closer and closer through the right hander, and then through the sequence of corners she loves. She said to us on Thursday they kind of loop themselves together and get quicker and quicker, as then you have to hit the anchors down at turn 4, which she does, and very nicely finds a good gap to get through there. Puts her hand up just to say to Dennis Crows, sorry for any slight contact. There wasn't much, to be fair, from Tamsin. So now she leads the race for the first time within this DD2 second chance heat. There a little bit further back is our 4th place man, which is Oloskins. Not for long though, because Las Karatas is also in the mix there as well, who loses a place. In fact, that's between Oloskins and Timarks for 5th and 6th place. And guess who's nearly there? Richard Faulkner in cart 636 heads down towards the final corner, and we'll see if they can change about over the next few laps here in Belgium. Tamsin Germain looks down there, not to check anything, just to keep her head down and of course get the best of the aerodynamics, which will go over your head. There goes a move down the inside from Aldous Timarks. Again, a back ahead of Oloskins, and he's just about made himself heard now. Richard Faulkner there with the Tony Kart race overall, the green and white livery he has on his race suit, and he's going to try and make a move now, possibly down at turn 5 as they work their way onto the back straight for the 7th time of asking. We've had 6 laps completed. It's going to be 4 to go at the end of this one. We're being shown a black and white flag here for 642, which is that of Aldous Timarks. So the clerk of the course not too happy with the drive-in of Aldous, who sits there now in 5th place. And then behind that we've got the likes of still Oloskins, and Richard Faulkner as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Meantime, back at the front, Tamsin's been closed down once more by Dennis Crows. Gets a good run onto the start-finish line. Will he jink out for a move at turn 1? Not on this occasion. So Tamsin still holds on to the lead of the race. Works her way through turn 2, slightly wide there, not quite clipping the apex, which you need to be doing in these sorts of races. It's all good practice for the pre-final, of course. It gives you a slight upper hand over those who haven't yet raced today. So down the back straight they go. Tamsin under pressure from Dennis Crows, who goes again for an inside line, but Tamsin much better on the brakes there to hold the position and the lead of the race. On towards turn 6 they head. Through there they've gone. The double right-hander leads into the hairpin at turn 7. And still behind them, just watch out here for Tim Verelst, who is a man who started on the second row of the grid, but he's now getting closer and closer once these top two continue to battle on their way through to the completion of another lap. We've just got now 3 to go at the completion of this one. So Tamsin comes through. 3 now to go as they run down towards the first corner. Can Dennis Crows try for a move this time? Again, he thinks about it, but not quite brave enough to get the kart down the inside line, or there may not have been a slight gap to find his way through. Meantime, there is the fight between Ilja Aloskins and the new 7th place man, is it? Nope, stays where he was. Hasn't quite got through into top 6 yet, and they've been caught as well over the last few laps by Richard Jutt. So Richard after the spin at turn 1. Meantime, up front, it's all changed once more because Dennis Crows has now gone through. Second is Tamsin Germain, and Tim Verelst is right there with her as well. So Tim Verelst has clawed his way through. He's brought the gap down to just 0.2 of a second for now. So watch out for Tim to see what he can do over the next few laps. And I wonder now if Dennis Crows can just pull away from those two behind. As meantime, this fight for 6th place continues, and Richard Faulkner has finally got there. So if Richard goes up into 6th, Richard Jutt is also through as well, which means Ilja Aloskins drops 2 places down to 8th. So it's all crucial again to get yourself into the top 6 places. Again, there's 3 vying for that 1 place. Richard Faulkner under attack once more as Ilja Aloskins tries for a very late move there on Richard Jutt, which doesn't come off. So Richard Jutt holds on to 7th. Ahead of them is Richard Faulkner still for the Coles Racing team. In towards turn 4 they now head, and up front it looks like Tamsin Germain has just about pulled away from Tim Verelst. The gap is down to 0.2 of a second between the top 2. It's around about 3 or 4 of a second between 2nd and 3rd. Haven't spoke about Las Caratas for a long time. He's on his own in 4th place. No one to play with at the minute. Aldous Tamarks is 5th, and then this fight for 6th place, which is still well and truly on. Richard Faulkner is there. A little bit of a move coming from further back once more from Ilja Aloskins. Not easy for me to say. And then Richard Jutt still there in 7th place at the minute as they work their way now onto the final lap of this DD2 second chance heat. The top 5 all look comfortable, but it's all going to be happening for 6th place now on this final tour of the 1300 metre Genk track. There is our 6th place man for now. Of course, he was late out onto the grids from the dummy grid. He had 1 formation lap compared to the 2 that everyone else had. But can he hold on now for the next 5 or 6 corners? He's got the very racy Richard Jutt behind him, who would be happy to get into the pre-final after the doomed day he had yesterday. But Richard Faulkner is the man who holds it for the time being. So we'll watch those through the next couple of corners. Meantime, down towards the last couple of corners is about to come our race winner in this DD2 second chance heat. That is Dennis Crows, who goes down towards turn number 10 now. Tamsin Germain is settled for 2nd, and Tim Verelst is looking good for 3rd place. So they work their way back onto the start finish line. Dennis Crows, where he started the weekend after quickest masters, he is also the best in this race. He is the winner of this 11-lap DD2 race. And Richard Faulkner nearly falters to the line there. They were literally side by side as they came through, and it is Richard Faulkner who takes 6th by 25 thousandths of a second. I don't know what happened there, but Richard Faulkner near enough came to a complete halt as they crossed the line. But these are the 6 that make it through after the DD2 race. Dennis Crows is one of them. Tamsin Germain in 2nd. 3rd place then for Tim Verelst. 4th place Andreas Las Caratas. 5th place then was the kart of Aldous Tamarks. 6th place for Richard Faulkner by the skin of his teeth there. And then behind that 7th place local man Richard Jutt will not take any further part in the point scoring races today, along with Ilja Aloskins and of course Oriol Danru Caballero, who failed to start the race altogether. So they are the 6 that go through to the pre-final for DD2.